Every city you've ever lived in is about 3 days from empty shelves. Not because of a disaster, not because of panic, but because that's how the system was designed. Most people assume cities store food. They imagine warehouses tucked behind grocery stores or stockpiles waiting just out of sight. In reality, modern cities don't survive on storage, they survive on motion. Food is constantly moving. Trucks arrive daily, sometimes multiple times a day. As long as that movement never stops, the system feels stable, invisible even. But when motion pauses, the timeline becomes very short. This is what's known as the 72-hour rule. It doesn't mean society collapses in 3 days. It means that after about 72 hours, the systems that keep food moving begin to fail in predictable ways. Not because food disappears, but because coordination does. To understand why, you have to look at how food actually reaches a city. Food doesn't move directly from farms to grocery stores. It passes through layers. Farms feed processing facilities feed distribution centers feed retail stores. Each layer is optimized for speed and efficiency, not storage. Inventory is kept deliberately low to reduce cost, spoilage, and waste. A typical grocery store carries 1 to 3 days of inventory. That's not a flaw, that's the business model. As long as trucks arrive on schedule, nothing feels wrong. Now imagine that flow slows down. It doesn't matter why. Weather, fuel disruption, labor shortages, power issues upstream. Within the first 24 hours, the change is subtle. Shelves aren't empty, they're incomplete. Specific items disappear. Fresh produce goes first because it has the shortest delivery cycle. Meat and dairy begin thinning soon after. Customers notice gaps, but most assume they'll be restocked overnight. Behind the scenes, stores are already under stress. Orders placed the night before aren't fulfilled. Delivery windows slide. Managers quietly adjust shelf layouts to hide gaps and slow perception. By 48 hours, the system tightens further. Distribution centers become the choke point. They may still have food, but they can't move it efficiently. Truck routes are delayed or canceled. Fuel availability becomes a constraint. Staffing shortages compound delays. Some stores begin limiting quantities without using the word rationing. By 72 hours, the system hits a wall. Not because food doesn't exist, but because movement stops. Food sitting in warehouses might as well not exist at all if it can't reach shelves. Refrigerated goods begin to spoil. Perishable inventory becomes unusable. Even when deliveries resume, backlogs create cascading delays that take days or weeks to unwind. And here's the part that makes this feel so sudden in real life: substitution shock. When one product disappears, demand doesn't vanish, it moves sideways. No chicken? People buy more beef. No fresh produce? People grab frozen. No brand name milk? Everyone takes the alternative. That shift triggers a chain reaction. Items that were totally stable suddenly spike because they're acting as replacements. That's why shortages can look random. It's not that the system is running out of everything at once. It's that the system is being forced to reroute millions of tiny decisions in real time with no extra capacity built in. Just-in-time logistics is designed for predictable demand. Substitution makes demand unpredictable. So the timeline isn't only stores run out, it's stores run out and the backups run out faster than expected because the entire city leans on the same substitutes at the same time. This isn't theoretical. We've seen it happen. During the 2021 Texas freeze, power outages disrupted fuel distribution and transportation simultaneously. Grocery stores weren't empty because farms stopped producing food. They were empty because trucks couldn't move, distribution centers lost power, and delivery schedules collapsed all at once. Within days, shelves across major cities thinned dramatically, despite food existing elsewhere in the system. The same pattern appeared during the UK fuel panic of 2021. The problem wasn't a lack of fuel,
It was a shortage of drivers and timing mismatches. But once movement slowed, gas stations ran dry, deliveries stalled, and food distribution was affected almost immediately. These events reveal something important. The vulnerability isn't scarcity, it's synchronization. Modern logistics rely on just-in-time delivery because it's incredibly efficient. Warehouses are expensive, storage costs money, food spoils, holding inventory ties up capital. By moving goods only when needed, companies reduce waste, lower prices, and operate at massive scale. That efficiency comes with a trade-off. There's no buffer. Every layer assumes the next layer will work perfectly every day. When one link slips, pressure builds downstream immediately. Different types of food fail on different timelines. Fresh produce is first. It relies on daily replenishment and minimal storage. Meat and dairy follow closely because refrigeration depends on power and strict timing. Frozen foods last slightly longer but still require continuous cold storage and transport. Shelf-stable goods like canned food or dry goods appear safer, but they're often replenished less frequently and are affected once distribution centers fall behind. What most people don't realize is that grocery stores aren't the real hub. Distribution centers are. Distribution centers are massive facilities that receive food from dozens or hundreds of suppliers, break it into store-specific shipments, and send it back out again. They operate on tight schedules and narrow margins. They're designed to move inventory quickly, not hold it indefinitely. When distribution centers slow down due to power issues, staffing shortages, or transportation delays, everything downstream feels it almost immediately. Stores don't get partial deliveries, they get missed deliveries. This is why shelves can go from mostly full to mostly empty in what feels like overnight. Modern cities aren't fragile because they're poorly designed. They're fragile because they're precise. Precision is powerful when conditions are stable. It's unforgiving when they're not. What makes the 72-hour rule so counterintuitive is that nothing dramatic has to happen. There doesn't need to be a catastrophe. The system can unravel quietly through delays, misalignment, and compounding inefficiencies. From the outside, it looks sudden. From the inside, it's mechanical. This is also why recovery takes longer than disruption. Restarting motion is harder than stopping it. Trucks need fuel, drivers need schedules, warehouses need staffing, data systems need synchronization. A delay in one layer ripples outward long after the initial problem is resolved. The purpose of understanding the 72-hour rule isn't fear, it's clarity. When people say modern cities are resilient, they're right, within narrow tolerances. When alignment holds, the system is remarkably effective. When alignment breaks, the timeline compresses fast. Cities don't rely on stockpiles, they rely on flow. And flow depends on coordination. That's the invisible structure behind every grocery shelf you walk past without thinking. That's why shelves empty faster than most people expect. And that's what the 72-hour rule really describes.